I think all of us who are parents, when our children were young, we experienced something that we used to our advantage quite often. And what I mean by that is there's this thing about kids, right? That when you say don't do something, that's what they want to do. Don't touch the stove. Whoop, got to burn my finger, right? But now we can use that to our advantage. It probably happened already in your home, or it will happen during the holidays. It happened at my house last night. Okay? So, we're trying to get a picture of Blakely Jane. And, of course, pictures aren't good just because the child's in the picture. They have to smile. They got to look a certain way, look in a certain direction. And so Stephanie's taking a picture, and she said, she's looking at him, and Aubrey's looking and said, don't you smile. Don't you do that. We do that to Zoe. Don't you smile. Quit it. Stop. And, of course, what are they going to do? Smile. Don't do it. I'll do it. Right? That's how we operate. And so, to get them to do something sometimes that we want them to do, we tell them not to do it because we know they're going to try. I want to speak about that for just a minute. What is that thing about us that makes us want to spend so much time thinking about the things that we're not supposed to do? Why does that consume our time? This text says, what your hand finds to do, do it. Here is simply the point of the lesson. Do what you can do. But instead of doing that, we often spend time, it seems to me, thinking about what we can't do rather than what we can do. And God knows that it's that way, and there are things in Scripture that indicate to us that He understands that we have that within us, and He talks about it. Let me give you a few ideas that show the point. Look at the text of Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12. And in Romans chapter 12, we find something that we spend time doing, but we can't do it. We can't spend time wanting to do it, but we can't. Notice what he says in verse 18. If it is possible, as much depends on you, live peaceably with all men. We can't do that. It is not possible for us to be at peace with all men. We can try, we can want it, we can pray for it, we can do whatever, but we cannot be at peace with all people. Some people are not peaceable. We cannot do that. Here's what we can do. We can be at peace with ourselves. Notice how he addresses that. Verse 17. Repay no one evil for evil. I can be at peace with myself if I make it a point not to initiate anything, not to aggravate anything, not to be the one who stirs things up. I may not be able to be at peace with everybody, but I can be at peace with me if I really work hard at not stirring things up. Most often, if you have multiple children, we all have one that just can stir the pot. One that knows how to get under the skin of somebody else. Or in any group of people, there are those who just know how to say the right thing to stir things up. Hey, what about this? You want to be at peace with yourself? Don't be that kind of person. Don't be the one stirring things up. Number 2, have regard for good things in the sight of all men. You want to be at peace with yourself? Just provide good things to people. Just provide good things. Don't be so concerned about getting back, because that's the third point. Don't avenge yourself. See, I can't be at peace with every single person. It is not possible. But I can be at peace with me. Because it is possible for me, with every single person, not to initiate a problem, to provide the best that I can, and don't take out vengeance on somebody else. Why would I spend time upset that I can't be at peace with everybody? Why not just make sure I'm at peace with me? Here's another one. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, do not worry. Not a matter of discussion. He says, do not worry. Now, I don't think we use the same definition of worry that Jesus did. We talk about worry meaning concern, or I care about something. I'm worried about it. I care about it. That's not what Jesus is talking about. He is talking about worry. That is, he's talking about giving mental energy and time to something that either we can't do anything about, or that we could if we would just quit thinking about it and start doing it. Worry is no action except mental. That's all it is. And therefore, I cannot worry and fix or change anything. Not possible. Jesus said, can you make yourself 1 cubit taller by worrying? Nope. Can you, just by worrying about something, get something to eat? No. You can go find something to eat. You can put on clothes. But mental energy devoted to something without action is worry. I can't change anything by worry. But I can pray for strength to handle everything. Be anxious for nothing, but in all things with prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, it passes all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. I can't change anything with worry, but I can handle everything with prayer. Remember, God is the one who gives me the strength to handle things. And notice how He does that. The text says He will guard your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. That word guard is a word that means to set up a sentinel around. To set up an army around you. When I found out what that word meant, I couldn't help but think of the passage in the Old Testament where Elisha was talking to the king of Israel. And he was concerned because the enemy was surrounding his city. What are we going to do? We're in trouble. And Elisha said, God, open his eyes and let him see. And God permitted him to see the sentinel that was surrounding the surrounding army. God permitted him to see the flaming chariots of fire that were surrounding the enemy that was surrounding him. God said, I put a sentinel there. I got you covered. And God will do the same thing for us. So instead of trying to fix things with worry, which cannot be done, let God put a sentinel around your heart and mind by concentrating on what Jesus can do and will do if we let Him. Here's the third thing we can't do. It is not possible to reap something we do not sow. Not possible. But in fact, it is true that I can sow what I want to reap. Galatians chapter 6 says that. You're going to reap what you sow. How many times, though, do we try to reap something for which we have sown nothing? It is not possible. I cannot reap something I have not sown. I cannot, for instance, I cannot decide, I cannot want to be spiritually stronger if I have not sown to the Spirit. There's not a person here who hasn't said in his or her mind, I really want to be more spiritual. I really want to have a closer relationship with God. I really want to be more. Well, it is not possible to have that if you're not sowing that now. It is not possible to know more about the Word of God if you don't read and study. It is not possible to be more connected and more in a relationship with the people of this church if you're not reaching out and trying to do that. It is not possible to have the fruit of the Spirit in your life if you're not actively trying to put it there. The principle is, if you sow, you will reap. So why is it that we spend time thinking about what I'd like to reap, but not spending any effort about what I ought to be sowing? I need to do what I can do. Notice what Paul said in Romans chapter 1, fourth thing. Paul said, as much as is in me, I'm ready to preach the gospel to those who are at Rome also. Paul may not be the best example of this. The point being, it's not possible for any one of us to preach to every single person on the planet. Not possible. The reason Paul may not be a good example is because he almost did. That guy went everywhere. He tried very hard to get to everybody. But here's one thing I know he did that we need to learn. I can't preach to everybody, but I can preach to somebody. And yet, we might get mentally out of sorts because of people who don't hear the gospel. And I hear questions all the time from people, oh, what's God going to do with that person way out there in the jungle who has never heard? And we spend a lot of time and discussion and energy about what is God going to do with those people, when in fact, we should be thinking about my friend with whom I can speak and I might have an opportunity with. What about that guy? What about that girl? I can't preach to everybody, but I can preach to somebody. Or how about this one, number 5, and finally, back in Romans 12 and verse 21, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. We cannot stop all evil. Not possible. Evil exists. Evil will continue to exist. We can fight it. We can talk about it. We can think about it. It's always going to be here. I can't stop all evil. And therefore, to get depressed And to give up because we can't stop evil makes no sense. Because even though I can't stop all evil, I can stop this moment of evil. That is, I can confront this one. I can confront the evil or the sin that I am tempted to do, and I can stop that. I can help a brother or a sister stop that one in their lives. I can be a part of the solution to fix something that's wrong, for instance, in the group setting of the congregation. I can't stop all evil. I can't fix all evil. But I can fix one evil in one moment at one time. Do what you can do. Why is it that we give time and energy to things that we cannot do? Far less time and energy to the things that we can do. Now, who might be susceptible to that mentality? Every one of us as individuals. Every one. Older people could be susceptible to this. Well, I'm not as young as I used to be. Therefore, I can't do what I used to do. Therefore, I don't do what I can do. Young people could be susceptible to this. I'm not old enough to do that. I'm not wise enough. I've not got enough experience to do that, so I don't do anything. As men in the church, well, I'm not able to do what he can do or what he can do or what he can do, and therefore I can't do that. I'm not going to do anything. Or women who might say, I'm not allowed or can't do this, that, or the other, therefore I'm not going to do anything. We're all susceptible to that. Every one of us might get caught in that line of what a professor, Fried Hardeman, called stinking thinking. We're all susceptible. This church could be susceptible. If we spend so much time talking and thinking and being upset about, oh, look what that church is able to do. Why can't we? Look what that church has. Why don't we? Look how they're structured and what they're doing. Why don't we? It's okay to have discussions. But when we look at all of those things that we don't have or don't do or are not involved with, and since we're just going to not do anything. That's the problem. I need to do what I can do. Now, if I continue down that road, if we as a church go down that road, there are some effects that it will produce in our lives. If I'm always focusing on the things that I can't do or I've not done or all of that mentality, I will not do well what I can do. Because I'm thinking about what I can't do. And if I think about those things all the time, I might become bitter and disillusioned rather than being positive about what I do have the ability to do. It will put me in a depressed state where, in fact, while complaining about all that we can't do or don't have opportunity, I don't do anything. So how do we battle it? How do we battle it? The passage we read tells us how. Number one, find something to do. Whatever your hand finds to do it. Instead of sitting around and thinking about all these things that we can't or have not or whatever, do something. Anybody working through depression is told the same thing. Get out of bed. That's the first thing. If you are depressed and you stay in bed and have the shades drawn or the lights out, until you stop that, you're going to stay in depression. Find something to do. And number two, do it well. Instead of wishing you had this ability, take the one you do have and do it well. Instead of wishing we were here in this position, be where you are and do well where you are. And that's how you fight it. Because third, we don't have much time. We don't have much time. Time is passing. There is nobody who is more trained, more involved in procrastination of certain things than am I. Nobody. And that's what I have to remember. We don't have much time. Is there something that you really want to do? Is there something with respect to God and spirituality that you really want to do? Get there. Because the wise man said, there is nothing in the grave where you're going. In other words, you do it now, or you're going to miss out. Do what you can do. I chose to speak on this topic today because of what we are about to do. Our new Bible class offerings start next Sunday. If you would like to be more spiritual, then plan to be here and to be in Bible class. It won't solve spirituality, but it will put you on a path. You'll be far better off than you were. But if you are wishing that you were a more spiritually minded person, and you choose not to take advantage of Bible classes and worship times as much as you could by choice, choosing not to be here, then it's all on you. You can do that if you'll just do it. And instead of wishing that we were as a church doing this, that, or the other thing, here's what we're going to do. So just get behind it and let's do it. It won't be perfect. And it won't fix everything. But it fixes something. And it's doing something. And it will make us a better church. Listen, the wise man knew it was right. Do what you can do. What a positive message to finish one year and start another. Let's all resolve to figure out what we can do and then just do it. Do what you can do because God has done everything that He needed to do. He provided a way out. It is sin that holds us down. It is sin that separates us from God. Through Jesus Christ, what He did, and through my obedience to Him culminating in baptism, I am saved from the sin that separated me from God. Today, if you are still in sin, do what you can do. Accept Him at His word and be obedient. If as a child of God, you've not been doing what you can do, make a resolution now. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do better. And God can use me to do what He can do through me while I do what I can do as a Christian. Today, is there a special need in your life? Something that we as a body can help you with, we'd love to offer you that opportunity while we stand and sing together.